And what we are doing actually is that we are taking the AI capabilities and we're training an AI model to be a scam expert. So we actually work with psychologists and behavioral scientists and going after hundreds of thousands of scam cases and reverse engineer them to identify, we called it the human vulnerabilities and exposures.
You find out it's a scam. You have nothing left. You've mortgaged your house. You have no way to get back on your feet. You have to think these things happen. It's not just how you're stupid because you're sitting in your life savings.
Yeah.
Then what happens to that person after that? Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Fraud Boxer. Like always, I got another heavy hitter today. I got Roy Zur, who is the co-founder of Cybersecurity, which just came out of stealth. And this is something that has really caught my attention. I don't get excited about a lot of products, but this one has got something new, something cool. So Roy was nice enough to come and talk to us all about it and share what they're up to. So how are you doing today?
Great, Jordan. It's really great to be here. Really appreciate the time, listen to our story and tell more about Cybersecurity.
Yeah. So you guys, through another channel, reached out to me and kind of asked me a couple of questions about some stuff, which led to me and you meeting when I was at MRC. I believe you were at another FinTech meetup in Vegas back in March of 2025.
Yes.
And we sat and had some coffee and you were starting to tell me about this thing that you guys have built. Got me really excited. So tell me a little bit about you first and foremost, and then we'll go into Charm and talk about what Charm is.
Sure. So I'm in the space of cyber intelligence and cybersecurity, actually. So I didn't come from fraud prevention, but more from the cybersecurity side. Been dealing with this for the past 22 years. I was born and raised in Israel. So I spent the first 10 years of my career in the Israeli Cyber Intelligence Agency. It's like the NSA of Israel. Then I actually studied law, business, finance, until I even worked in, and I worked in the Israeli Supreme Court around financial crime.
Wow.
And afterwards, I started, that was more than a decade ago. And then I decided to, starting my own business, starting as an entrepreneur. I had actually two companies prior to Charm, which were around cybersecurity. One was acquired end of 2016. And one was acquired around end of 2021. Both of them
double
were
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. And both company, my previous company was focusing around human factor and security, like how employees are being, manipulated with phishing emails, etc. And that's what led me actually, after kind of like doing it within the corporate or enterprise infrastructure, kind of like thinking, what is a bigger problem actually? Which is actually millions or hundreds of millions of people that are being scammed every year, So that's kind of like what led me here.
And I think that's super interesting. We have phishing tests at my company all the time, and they're pretty blatant. They're pretty easy to spot. But I've been at companies that have employees have fallen victim to sending a $50,000 payment to a fake invoice and those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
And usually it's it's sometimes a breakdown of controls because the business is so busy that steps get skipped a lot of the times, or diligence doesn't get done. They're just trying to get through their queue and get on with the day so they can go home. So I could definitely see how those sorts of things can happen. But it's a really cool thing that to think about that you were thinking about what's happening, what's making people do that. So tell me a little bit about Charm and how you have applied that sort of mentality, because this is what really started to blow my mind when we were sitting there in Las Vegas. So tell me all about it.
We like to say that Charm is like a customer security AI agent. So if you think about an organization, let's say a bank or a financial institution, how can you actually protect your customers, your end customers, from these scams, social engineering, this different types of deception, manipulation? And what we are doing actually is that we are taking the AI capabilities and we're training an AI model to be a scam expert. So we actually work with psychologists and behavioral scientists and going after hundreds of thousands of scam cases and reverse engineer them to identify, we called it the human vulnerabilities and and exposures, meaning what
Okay.
exactly, how scammers can actually exploit different human vulnerabilities. How can I actually create a model for your Jordan susceptibility, for me, Roy's susceptibility? How can I understand how can one person can be tricked into one situation and another won't. So it's really, really understanding the psychology behind this and building a model around this and having an AI agent that is not just able to identify when something like this happened, but also to intervene in real time, meaning communicate with you and break the scams.
So that leads me a couple of questions there. So the first one is, so you said like the models are going to be unique to the individual. So things that I see or interactions that I take are going to be different than interactions that you would take through this. So like how I get to like how I'm trying to send money or the types of emails that I click on, like it's going to know the difference between those types of things then, right?
Yes. So let's say our solution is deployed within a bank, then before it even intervenes with you, it builds a profile for you. So based on the transaction history and KYC and data that the bank already has on you, then it
knows I'm paying my power bill to this company. I normally send money to these people. So I could imagine like then if all of a sudden a new one for $10,000 gets added, all of a sudden I'm trying to play Keanu Reeves. It's like,
yeah, exactly. Then it can detect it. But then the question, okay, it was detected, but that's just half of the solution. The second part is if you, Jordan, want to make a $10,000 transaction to someone, then even if the bank will detect that something is off, how can it prevent you from, it's your money, right? So, and that's why it's so difficult with scams because it's your money. And in the past, the bank would have said, your money, you choose whatever you want to do with it.
So that is an interesting thing because like, when we were talking, I mentioned that I had Aaron West on here before and we talked about the human aspect of these sorts of scams. And my thing that I had always struggled with is it is my money and I could send it to whoever I want to send it to.
Yes.
But at the same time, all of these hoops that are already in place, and they're very, very friction-filled hoops. Yeah. And they're not personal. They're very like, did you mean to do this? Are you sure you know this person? Like those sorts of things. If I just say yes to all those things, because the scammer's telling me to say yes to those things, they made me feel like I can say yes to those things already. Like at what point does the bank finally get to say, hey, I warned them. They did it anyway, Yeah. And I think like there was the same thing on the episode with her is there's banks that are hiring psychologists. So they're routing those phone calls to psychologists now, which I think is a cool step. But I think like with you guys, you're kind of doing that with technology essentially, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah, correct. So, JP Morgan Chase, just created like a behavioral science team to work with their fraud operations team. So they actually have these psychologists and behavioral scientists, PhDs that work with the operators, which is great. However, one, it's not very scalable.
Yeah. How many psychologists can you have when people are trying to send money, 3,000 times a day?
And you have 100 million customers and millions of them are being scammed every year. So that's going to be very difficult to scale. Two, it's a different expertise, expecting the fraud operations person to do this and to be able to really break this spell in real time, et cetera. It's not exactly their job. I mean, could be part of their job, but it's not really expecting them to do this. And it's taking a lot of time, a lot of effort. And a lot of time, I like to say, with technology, you can actually make, it's not only about making a scam expert that has all the data and capabilities. Also, what the beauty in AI capabilities here is that they have unlimited patience, meaning that you can actually, which is difficult, having it in these situations. And two, they are not judgmental. So you can actually have what a lot of time people say, no, we have to have a human in the loop. Actually, in a way, the AI with time will be able to do a better job, definitely more efficient, but also a more effective job in conveying this to the person, to the victim.
Yeah, I can see that because like if I knew like a family or relative was sending money, I would want to shake him and be like, what are you doing? Yeah, why are you doing this? Yeah. Because I would lose patience immediately. And I would do the same thing, I think, if I was like in customer services. Well, I'm not in customer service. Is like if I was talking to a customer being like, and they're like, no, I know it's Brad Pitt. I know he needs me to pay his light bill. Just let me do it. And you have to be like, it's not Brad Pitt.
Yeah,
like, stop.
Exactly.
And like you could have it. And I guess with the AI, like just like how when I do prompts on ChatGPT or Gemini, like if I don't get the answer I want the first time, I tweak it a little bit. I change my response to it until I finally get the way that I want. And I could see that could probably be super helpful.
And how we can do it is actually, and this is what we do, we actually run simulations. So we pick 3 different AI models. We allow one to play the victim, and we actually fuel it or feed it with a lot of victim profiles. And then we take another to play the scammer. Now, they don't know they are AI. They don't, and each of them know it is an AI.
You're not nice enough to tell them you're going to talk to
I don't tell them. I don't tell them. They think they talk to a person. Anyway, each of them knows they are AI, but they don't know the other is AI as well. But so you have one victim, another one is the perpetrator or the scammer. And then we have our model, which is the third AI, which kind of like this purpose here is to identify the situation and break the scams. And then the beauty is that we can actually run millions of simulations without hurting anyone, which kind of like see how the AI would react in this situation, see why in this time, our intervention didn't work and what we could have changed to work in this profile or, with this person, it's not a person, but in this AI playing this person. And then once we have it, when we deploy it, then we also do this like clustering or understanding the behavior of the real people. And then we know that the AI can actually communicate with you in the most effective way for you, for your cluster, for your group.
Hey everybody, I want to take a minute to jump in here and talk about this week's sponsor, Disputed. As a merchant myself, I'm always on the lookout for someone that understands my exact pain when it comes to disputes. Disputes are hard, disputes are tricky, and you got to know what to do. Well, with Disputed, they're former merchants themselves, so they actually know what to do. They analyze the root cause of each chargeback, they evaluate whether or not to actually fight it, and if they do, what the win probability is going to be. They create optimized responses finely tuned to each and every case, and they also continuously learn from their responses through feedback loops in real time. Disputed was built with enterprise in mind from day one and built to scale. So if you want to learn about a more intelligent way to fight disputes, please reach out to them at www.disputed.ai and thank them for their sponsorship here today. Now let's get back to the episode. So what types of ways are these models, once deployed, interacting with the customer?
Yeah.
Is it prompts? Is it chats? Is it voice even? Like how is it
it's a great question. First, I'll say that some organizations we are working with are still preferring that the agent will talk only to their team and not directly to customers. So some organizations say, you know what? It's great capability. It's a bit futuristic for me. I would prefer the agent to work with the fraud operations. For example, the agent is joining a call. It's almost like in a listening mode, giving insights to the fraud operation.
So they're basically reading prompts on their screen and saying, say this or do this.
Yeah, do this. And also they collect some data that's instead of the person to take manually data. So they collect data, they get hints about nuances there, things that the person is saying, kind of like building the reports for the person that is now talking, for the employee or the fraud operations that is now talking to the customer. So that's one area. Now, and in that case, the agent is just listening. So listening and guiding, but not interacting with the customer. Regarding customer interactions, short term, right now, it's mostly conversational in text. And this is both as a session, as a layer on top of the transaction. Let's say you're doing a transaction. And then instead of getting, are you sure, or getting all the different step ups, it's a layer of conversational AI telling you, hey, Jordan, this is Roy, your customer security agent, AI agent. And kind of like guiding you on what we see and kind of like trying to communicate with you in the best way. Now, we do have the ability to communicate with customer even before and after transactions. So you would see this agent also in helping kind of like, we call it risk reduction, identify where people are now being kind of like based on your profile, understand what kind of insights or tips I need to give you, Jordan, versus tips to me. So it's kind of like consumer education next gen.
Okay, that's kind of cool, So instead of just like sending out a blanket email like Capital One does all the time to me and say, don't send money to people you don't know every 3 weeks.
Yes, like, I'm with Citi. I'm getting the same thing. Scams are bad, something like that. Fraud is dangerous. I don't know.
Yeah, it's super basic stuff, but I just delete the email essentially.
Yeah. Now think about if you would get insights about your personalized banking activity and what type of scams are based on the profile we did to you are affecting you right now this week, specifically because we saw these trends and we saw your activity, and this is what we can tell you.
Watch out for these things this week. That's pretty cool, actually.
And say, Jordan, this is the five things that are most relevant to you, right? So this is one area, and also this could be applicable in the recovery stage. Today, one of the challenges is if you got scammed, then a lot of banks, even the biggest, you need to call the bank during work hours, and you have the fraud or customer support or fraud operation that will pick up the phone, and you'll have if it happened to you in the weekend at midnight, you need to talk to someone right now. And also the entire process is once you report it, then this information of feeding it back to prevent it from the other one. I talked to a very large bank. I can't mention the name. They say it takes them a week or 2 weeks to get the information that was reported back, feeding back into the detection to prevent the next person.
Sounds like banking. I would say that even sounds short.
Yes, it's 1 to 2 weeks. You can do it in 1 to 2 minutes. Why waiting 2 weeks, right? Now, one last thing I'll say about this is right now, while the focus is mostly on conversational in chat, there are really cool capabilities in voice conversations. And this is really the edge of technology right now.
I see when you'll have a huge breakthrough on that is, can I talk to an agent?
We are getting there. I actually, if I could have, I would share with you, my conversation with the AI agent. They are starting to feel very, very human. The AI is starting to understand the nuances in my voice, provide different responses. So it's not like a bot that is just talking.
Not just an actual robot.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be cool. Can you do you think can you even right now? Is it regional? Will it talk to me like I would expect as a West Coast American versus somebody in England?
Yes, it's not there yet, but this is definitely, there are a few projects right now. Some we are leading internally and some are led by other companies. For example, there is a cool company called Sesame that are called bringing the computer to life. So they're developing different capabilities of voice communication. So part of the research we're doing internally is inspired by their research. So it is that there will be, in a few months, I think, there will be more and more capabilities of having not just different voices, but really understand of the model, that the current situation, how to respond, because it's not just the words I'm saying. Right now we are talking in a specific style of a podcast. I don't know.
Yeah.
If I got scammed and you talk to me, that will be different conversation.
Yeah, I would probably be asking you a lot different questions than I'm asking you today.
Well, that's the text, but also the voice will be more compassionate.
I would be very direct. I'd try to be less light.
Yeah. Yes, probably. Yeah.
And because I used to work customer service on the phones too, is you have to change your tone of voice for the situation that the customer's in. Mm-hmm. So if you were calling me, I just got scammed, you expect me to be serious and sound confident that I'm going to solve your issue versus tech support, it's a little, it could be a little looser. I mean,
exactly.
I was always the anomaly in the call centers. Because we had these stupid scripts that we were supposed to read.
Yeah.
Oh, you'd say what's happening. I got scammed today. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that you got scammed today. I would love to help you out and see if we can get to the bottom of this. Yeah. I would always be direct. And they'd be like, I got scammed today. I'm like, oh no, well, let's fix that right away. Because they I have better CSAT scores because I was getting to the root of the problem quicker.
Yeah, I assume that the customers appreciated that they were.
Yeah. Because I know when I call customer service and I get a problem, I don't want to hear them empathize with me with a whole bunch of words. I want my problem solved. This is 2025. Our attention spans are gone, completely gone. To solve the problem so I can move on in my life, You're
right. When I'm calling different customer service, if I have a problem, then they're just reading the problem back to me that I said. It's not
I already told you that.
I know you're reading a script. Stop reading the script. Just talk to me, guys.
Yeah. That's so funny. So now, so it's understanding, it's learning, it's interacting with the customer. Then what actions can it take? Can it still allow it to be sent? Can it stop it? Can it send them somewhere else? What are the outcomes that can come from these models once it determines good or bad is happening?
Yeah, it's a great question. So first, when we deploy, because eventually it is a B2B solution, meaning we are deploying it within organizations. So the final decision is the organization's decision. So let's say it's a big bank or a payment app, then they decide their, whether you can call it risk appetite, or they decide if they eventually want the customer to be able to override the agent. Now, of course, that will make it less effective, but it is the organization's decision. Specifically, we have our best practices, and we guide our agent to first identify if this is really a scam. Because when we trigger the agent, sometimes we trigger the agent because it's high probability, but we still need to clarify a few things.
It's not absolute, right? It's not absolute.
If we know it's a almost 100% or above a certain number that we say, okay, this is a scam, then we recommend to use it as a way to block the transaction, but also not just blocking and telling the customer this is blocked, but having a conversation with the customer until they understand. Meaning, this is the unlimited patience. You can block it, and then the AI can, if the customer needs to talk to this AI as much as they want, they can do it, right? And this is part of kind of like...
So it could just be talking to him for an hour. It's like, no, I'm not going to let you do that. And then it's like, what? Why? And then it's like, well, because you're going to send money to a scam. No, I know this person. We don't think that you do. Like, it could just keep going until they finally have that breakthrough.
I hope, in a sophisticated way. I mean, the goal eventually is to make when we call it break the scam spell, is to make the customer understand and agree with the agent. If we ended the situation where the agent blocked you and you still didn't understand why and you're upset, that's not a good enough solution, because what you're going to do is call a bank now and you'll be upset. Now, even if you're wrong, now the bank will be in a situation where there's an upset customer talking to another agent, talking to a representative, whether it's human or, and this is not a good outcome. So the idea is, how can I convince you that I am not wrong, that you are wrong in a way that will not upset you?
So have you found any like tips and tricks for that at all yet? I mean, I don't want you to give your secret sauce away, but like...
Well, I mean, honestly, the thing is, I don't think there's one secret sauce here, because it's really personalized. So there is no one way that talking to a 70-year-old woman from Kansas, to a 50-year-old from Japan, to a 20-year-old from Tel Aviv, from whenever, it's really, really personalized. And not just, I mentioned some examples in culture and age, but there are a lot of different elements. It's not just, there are different elements. So there is no one way to do it. I would say that in general, there are some things that are, human enough, that are true for everyone. One, this is being this non-judgmental situation, this patience, this kind of like fact based, kind of like giving more data to the person, getting them, understand their unique situation, and also understand their biases. So, for example, this is in some scams, like Roman scams, the pig butchering, or investment scams that's been around a while. Let's say our tool stepped in after you already. Let's say our tool was just deployed to your bank, so we didn't know anything up until now, and you already spend thousands of dollars on someone you think is your loved one. And now to step in and tell you stop sending money to this person, this is a very difficult task. I mean, this is a very hard, very challenging spell to break.
Yeah.
So that level of communication will need to be totally different than, somebody switched your invoice to the financial team, and I'm telling you, oh, no, this account is flagged, or this account has been, or this invoice has been forged. Oh, okay. I mean, that's enough.
Yes, because that's stopping it before it happened. But like, if I've already sent, $100,000, and then all of a sudden this tool's be like, hey, you shouldn't be sending money to this because this is a scam, and I would panic and be like, I've already sent the money.
And this is exactly, and
that's too embarrassed.
Yeah, embarrassed. And this also operates our sunk cost bias. Like, we don't want to believe that we already lost this amount of money. And this is not just the money, also time, emotional investment, etc. So the communication in this situation needs to be much more, I would say, subtle, and building the communication and not saying, "Hey, this is a scam. You've been scammed by a Roman scam." This, this is. We also, this could also trigger emotionally people, and we don't want this to. Eventually, we want this to help some people, and that's causing them.
Not causing them grief and
I mean, look, we can't change the reality. In the reality, they got scammed, or we identified that the person they're transferring money is a scammer. They should know about it. But how to tell them, and how to provide a process that will allow them to recover, is important, because not many people know. But it's not just the financial damage. I saw research that showed more than 50% of scam victims. And that's a research from UK, experience significant emotional distress.
Yep.
Some are actually trying to take their life. So it's a big deal. So it's not just the money. The money is important, but it's beyond that.
That's where I think that's a really good call out is, there is a human that is a part of these transactions. And, when you figure out what's happened, some people could be like, "Oh, I can't believe I did that. That was so dumb of me." But some people, they can't tell their family. They can't tell their friends. They then don't have anything. Their life is essentially over.
Yeah.
And mentally, the weight of that, let's say you are 65 years old. You've lost your partner. You've worked your whole life. You have this money, and that's what you live on. You have your home, but you sent all this money to what you thought was someone, because, you had the same partner for 40 years. Now someone was giving you attention. You finally were ready and vulnerable to move on.
Yeah.
And you sent all this money to someone that you thought was a partner that was going to come see you eventually, but ended up being a scam. You find out it's a scam. You have nothing left. You've mortgaged your house. You have no way to get back on your feet. You have to think, these things happen. It's not just how you're stupid because you sit in your life savings.
Yeah.
Then what happens to that person after that? There is, they have to have a path forward, and that they might not have an option for a path forward. I think that's where people really need to understand the fallout of these, because you see these news articles, and all it does is talk about what people lost.
Yeah.
It doesn't talk about what happens to them afterwards, and there's no follow-up. There's nothing done. And yes, people do take their lives after that because they see that that's their only path forward. And I think that's where the preventative thing, and sending an email from your bank to say, don't fall victim to scams, or having a Zelle pop up that says, do you really know this person, isn't enough?
Yeah, it's not enough. I mean, and you're right. First, it starts with the prevention, meaning that if we can actually prevent this from happening, both on the educational level, both as providing tools to the customers to verify situations, and also to step in and intervene and stop it, that's the best way. However, no tool will be able, not even charm will be able to prevent 100% of scams.
Yeah.
Well, in any case, we'll have scam victims, and how we are dealing with the victims and how we are dealing with customers that got scammed, regardless if it's their fault, the bank's fault, liability, let's put all of this aside for a second. There is a human being in a very vulnerable situation that needs to be addressed right now. And you know what? Even if I'm just thinking about it from a bank's perspective, even from a business perspective, you know what? If you treat your customers well in these moments that matter, they will remember it. They will remember it in a good way for you. This will also help you, even if you don't want to do it because it's the right thing to do it because it's the right thing for the business. In any case, it's the right thing to do, in my point of view.
And I think that there's some UK banks that have tried some new things too. And I think that when people have a good experience, they tell their friends, and that goes, even in 2025, even with the internet and even with ads, there still is a lot of weight to word of mouth. Actually, when I came back from the last MRC, I recorded one of these at this recording of this. It's not out yet. By the time this one comes out, it will be out though. But it talks about the guest on that show asked me how I learned about new tools. Is it from ads? Is it from booths? And I hear about those names from those things, but where I build the trust to really engage those is the word of mouth and my peers and their experiences with those tools, their experiences with the people at those companies. And I think that is an overlooked thing. Yeah. So if a bank has something really cool and really helps somebody emotionally, mentally, financially, because that's what hopefully it's supposed to be doing, they'll tell their friends. And then it'll become more of a normal thing people will expect. I used to call it, and I still call it, expected friction. In like where there's certain things, like when I was buying this house, I was wiring, well over $100,000, and I expected some friction there. I expected a little bit of pop up there, and I think the same thing is like, it doesn't have to be that hard pop up, but it could be something cool, and that's what I feel like. It seems like what you guys are up to. So.
Yeah, the idea is eventually we look at customer experience here. I mean, user experience and customer experience as important as eventually, or almost as important as actually solving or preventing the scam. Because if preventing the scam causing awful customer experience to everyone, then A, the banks will not implement that. B, I mean, most people are not getting scammed in most of their transactions. So if you'll be, if I'll have to intervene and
I don't want to get chatbot when I'm paying my electric bill.
Yeah, exactly. And in that case, you will just stop listening to that. And so eventually it will not be effective. So the idea is it needs to be, a great experience. It needs to intervene in times where you and I are aligned. You, the customer, me, the bank are aligned, where, as you mentioned, when you're sending money for deposit for an apartment or paying like $100,000, you expect, in a way, can give you some comfort to know that in addition to checking your identity, there is something that helps you verify, wait, this is actually the seller, this is the account, I'm checking a few things for you, checking the red flags. Okay, I'm giving you kind of like, okay, I think it's fine. I don't see any red,
it's like a reassurance on the side. That's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely agree that it needs to be aligned with customer experience.
So as we begin to wrap this one up, this has been a really cool and a lot of fun, and I really think what you guys are doing is cool. Everybody, I will put obviously links to Charm Security in the description of this. If you're a fintech and you're listening to this and you want to know more, you think that these things sound super cool, please reach out, please contact them, because I think it's pretty cool and it might be able to really set you apart in this really tight world. So Roy, I always ask my guests the top 3 things, their predictions that are happening in their world. Doesn't have to be long, just like, AI was the one 2 years ago. So what are the top 3 things that you're watching right now in your world?
Interesting. So again, AI is a big word, but I will say one is, I'd say scams that are using deepfakes are the first thing that's, been seen over the last few months, especially with the new models. Then videos, images, voice, very hard to recognize. So it's getting bigger, and that's going to be a huge problem in the coming months. Coming months, that's one. 2, from the solution perspective, I would say we'll see, not just in scam, but in general, we'll see AI moving from AI copilots to agentic. So more AI that is not just getting tasks and being told what to do, but actually AI that is getting goals and actually figuring out what it needs to do.
Oh, that's super interesting.
Yeah, that's the agentic approach. And everything you hear about also Charm with agents and agents in general, this is where AI is moving to actually decide what to do to solve a problem, like the best way of solving a problem. So that's another prediction, I have. And another one, which again, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about this for the US, but I definitely from a regulatory point of view, the processes that happen in UK with shifting some liability to banks, I see them happening in other parts. Well, even if not in full, other parts of the world, Australia, Canada, the EU is talking about this. The US is now in an interesting time with regulators.
They wanted like the 50-50 liability through like Zelle payments and stuff.
Yes.
Issuer and receiver.
Yeah, so I definitely see the regulators stepping in some areas because this is becoming such a huge problem. And even with the current administration in the US, which maybe believes in less involvement of the regulator in these cases, because this is creating such a lot of human suffering for Americans, we'll see the regulators stepping in. If not in the federal level, then in the state level. And we see more states are getting involved there.
Yeah, I could see like California especially pushing for something, because there's so many people here. But I mean, I think you're totally right. Like the deregulation has been what the current administration has run on, but they only run on those sorts of things until it happens to like their base. And it happens to their base a lot.
Yes, I agree.
So, I think that we will definitely see something there. And I think that you guys are going to be well positioned to that, because I think the psychological approach is way more useful than just popping up a whole bunch of screens in front of me. So I really appreciate that you guys are here and that you guys are doing that. Like I said, everybody, please use the link in the description to reach out to them, learn more about it. They got a really cool website. Roy, thank you so much for coming by, man.
Thank you, Jordan. It was a pleasure.
I really appreciate it. And everybody else, we'll see you in a couple weeks. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Again, I want to thank Disputed.ai for making it possible. With Disputed, since they're former merchants, they understand my pain every day when I'm fighting chargebacks. Disputed has created the most advanced chargeback management platform for enterprise, backed by extensive expertise and a commitment to that partnership to get you the best possible results. They analyze the root cause of each chargeback, evaluates whether or not to fight, and even the win probability. They create optimized responses, finely tuned for each and every case, and they continuously improve over time using feedback loops. So please take some time out of your day to visit them at www.disputed.ai to learn more about an intelligent way to fight disputes, and thank them for partnering with us today. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.